Have you ever thought about how we heal the deepest wounds of childhood trauma? What if the answer wasn't some complex therapy, but something incredibly simple? We're about to dive into a story that's going to show you exactly that.
It sounds a little crazy, right? I mean, how can a toy, just a simple object, help a child process something as horrifying as war or a natural disaster? Well, that's the big question we're going to unpack. And let me tell you, the answer is just brilliant. And honestly, it's pretty moving. So meet Hibuki. In Hebrew, that name means my hug. And as you're about to see, this isn't just any doll. It's a specially designed therapeutic tool that's at the very heart of a whole new way of healing for kids all over the world. But to really get why Hibuki works, first we got to understand the problem it was created to solve. Okay, so let's start with the core challenge here. We need to talk about the silent and often invisible wounds that trauma leaves on the youngest victims of a disaster. You see, unlike adults, little kids often can't just tell you they're scared or anxious or confused. They don't have the words. Instead, all that trauma comes out in their behavior and in ways that can be really baffling for parents and caregivers to figure out. Their suffering isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a very quiet retreat deep inside themselves.
And just look at how different these reactions can be. A child who's been potty trained for a year might suddenly start wetting the bed again. Or they might have awful nightmares or become terrified of the dark. We also see kids who become super clingy, or they go the complete opposite way, becoming aggressive or withdrawn. And this last one is really critical. They often replay the traumatic event over and over again when they're playing. These are all signals of some really deep distress.
So, faced with this incredibly complex problem, a team of psychologists in Israel came up with a solution that was just beautifully simple.
Now, the key thing to get here is that Hibuki therapy isn't just about handing a kid a toy and walking away. No, it's a structured, thought-out intervention specifically for young children. It uses this doll as a very specific tool to help them process their emotions and get back a sense of safety after everything has been turned upside down. And the genius is right there in the design. You'll notice the doll has this intentionally sad-looking face. That's on purpose. It invites a child to feel empathy, to want to comfort it. And its long, weighted arms? They're made to give a hug that feels real. It's basically a friend who looks like it really needs a friend.
And this idea has made a huge impact. It's not just some small project. This endorsement from Israel's president really shows you how powerful this tool is. It's recognized for truly helping thousands of children who've been through just terrible events.
So let's get into the method behind it all, the psychology. How does a huggable, sad-faced puppy actually help a child heal? Well, the science behind it is absolutely fascinating. This right here, this is the fundamental psychological shift. Trauma forces a child into the role of a passive victim. They feel completely powerless, overwhelmed, and their focus turns inward on all that anxiety. Hibuki therapy completely flips that script. By giving the child this little creature to care for, it transforms them into an active caregiver. Suddenly, their focus shifts outward. They have a purpose. And most importantly, they get back a sense of control. And here's exactly how that path to empowerment works. It's pretty straightforward. First, the child gets their Hibuki. They're told, Hibuki is sad and scared, and it needs you to take care of it. Just that simple act of giving them a responsibility changes everything. The child's focus moves away from their own fear and onto nurturing something else. And in that process of caring for the doll, they go from feeling helpless to feeling helpful.
Okay, now to get the next piece of the puzzle, we need to talk about this concept called post-traumatic play. For little kids, play is their language. It's how they work through things they just don't have the words for. But after a trauma, they can get stuck in a loop, endlessly replaying the scary event in their games, but never finding a way to fix it.
And this is exactly where Hibuki becomes a co-star in their story. Instead of the child always being the victim in their play, Hibuki can take on that role. The child can project their own feelings onto the doll, they can comfort Hibuki, they can be the hero who saves Hibuki, and ultimately, they can give the story a new, safer ending. Through this play, they finally get to take back control of their own narrative.
So, the big question is, does it actually work? Well, the results are incredibly powerful, and its impact has spread far, far beyond where it all started.
The journey of this little therapy doll is just remarkable. It was born out of conflict in Israel back in 2008, but the idea proved to be so universal that it's been used in major global crises ever since. It was there after the devastating tsunami in Japan. It was used to help children during the war in Ukraine, and it was there again after the massive earthquake in Turkey. Hibuki has shown us that the language of comfort and care, well, it's the same everywhere. And the scale of this is just staggering.
To date, more than 150,000 children all across the globe have received a Hibuki doll and the therapy that comes with it. Think about that. That's an incredible number of young lives that have been touched by this simple, powerful idea.
And you know, the professional world has definitely taken notice. Hibuki has won prestigious awards like the Genesis Prize. It's been featured in major innovation centers, and it's been recognized by top-tier groups like the American Psychological Association and universities like Harvard and Yale. This isn't just a feel-good story. This is a clinically respected intervention.
So let's bring it all together. What's the big takeaway here? Why is this model so important in the world of humanitarian aid and mental health?
Well, what makes Hibuki truly one of a kind is that it was designed from the ground up for rapid, large-scale deployment. It's basically psychological first aid that can be delivered in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, right when it's needed most. There's really no other program out there that does quite what Hibuki does.
You can boil its key strengths down to 3 things. 1, it's scalable, meaning you can get it to thousands of kids really quickly. 2, it's low cost, which makes it an accessible tool, even when resources are tight. And 3, as we've seen, it's cross-cultural. It just works, tapping into that universal human need to care for something and to feel cared for in return.
And so we come right back to this image, a child, a doll, and a hug. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most profound solutions aren't the most complicated ones. For a child who has faced the absolute unimaginable, this simple tool provides a real path back to feeling safe, in control, and whole again. It really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? In a world that is just full of massive, complex, and often overwhelming problems, what can we all learn from Hibuki about the incredible, world-changing power of a simple, elegant, and deeply compassionate idea?